place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Well, welcome everyone to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, September 10th, 2021. This is episode 474 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Thought of the Walk week, but you'll notice this is a different introduction than usual. That's right. This is a collection of thoughts of the walk that come off YouTube. But I also know that y'all probably want to hear about what's up with the recent presidential executive orders that came through. And I wanted to talk about that. There has been so much anxiety in our network in the last couple weeks that I've really been trying to encourage you to focus on what you can control. And what the president says qualifies as something you can't control. But that doesn't mean it's not worrying, right? Doesn't mean it's not worrying. We've got people in our network who work for the federal government who are likely to now no longer work for the federal government, or they have to make a decision. They have to choose between their health or a job. And that's never a fun decision. I've gotten tons of email overnight from people saying, it looks like I'm going to be out. And I'm not quite sure what I'm doing next. And the answer is this: we don't know yet. What I've seen this morning is governor after governor pushing back on the private industry requirement for anybody over 100 employees. I do find it interesting. USPS is exempt from the federal mandate, right? There's a lot of hope to be had, but there's a much bigger piece of hope that I have. And this is it. We can say no. I know that sounds like so simple, but we can say no. The more people who right now don't go along with this, the less likely it is we continue down this road of separating one part of our society from the other, which is part of the foundation one would set towards setting up a situation to purge one segment from another. You separate them, you vilify one side, you make them dirty or disease-ridden, and then you can justify putting them into camps and or genocidally treating them or making a different class citizen out of them. And that's how we get to where many other countries have been, not just Germany in World War II, right? Where they vilify a set of people based on the characteristic and then they purge them. And that's not how humans should act towards each other now, is it? And I know that's a lot of the fear people have, but I do think this step was misguided. I think it was policy by polling, and the presidential approval rates of his handling of COVID had gone down. And so they had to come out and put a strong foot forward, especially for a president who so blatantly messed up Afghanistan's pullout, right? He's already losing, he's portrayed as weak. This is him trying to be strong, guys. Look at the political side and then separate yourself and realize you can't change what the president says. If your company mandates to the point where they're willing to let employees go, you can't change that either, but you can let them let you go, and you can require a letter on the way out saying the reason they're letting you go is that you're not willing to have a shot. That you can do all of those things, and it will suck for you to not have that job suddenly. But even those of you where this doesn't get enforced at your company, wake up and start thinking about what you can do as a backup plan for earning income. But also, let's stand together and be willing to stand up for what's right. Whether you're vaccinated or not, it doesn't matter. The question is it okay to mandate a shot? Is it okay to mandate a shot that does not stop the spread of a disease and that does not keep the person who has it from getting that same disease? If I've learned nothing else in this pandemic, it's that we still don't have the cure for the common cold, right? Even if it's an uncommonly strong common cold, we do not have the cure for it. The vaccine is showing itself to be ineffective. I think that's part of why the people who have created this and are profiting from it want to push it now more than ever. And they keep blaming the unvaccinated for the spread. Guys, passive, nonviolent, no. That's really what it's going to take. If you want some encouragement because you're feeling down, I do recommend that you listen to Xavier Hawk's Baseline Edition today. He and I completely agree. Civil disobedience of not accepting the jab is about the best you can do right now. And rising up with arms to go take over something is not the best idea. You're looking at behaving in a way that would make, the optics of that to the other opinion just makes the people who don't believe in forcing medical treatments on people who do not comply or do not want them. It makes them look like, the January 6th rioter Capitol thing, right? It plays into the hand of the optics of separating two. And now more than ever, unity. But also, find your line, define your line, and figure out what it is. Listen to Baseline. I think that will also help you cut through the noise and the fear. And I understand the fear. I hope these thoughts of the walk that we're about to have will encourage you to keep building your life as best you can in the environment you're in. I also want to say something else. Self-reliance. The concept of self-reliance. The reason I did an interview show Wednesday on self-reliance instead of just doing a Monday show on Wednesday, that's the best thing to have to fall back on when stuff in your life changes for any reason. Baby comes, somebody in the family gets really sick, you lose a job, a tornado comes through, there's a crazy mandate, and oh my gosh, you lost your job. Whatever it is, the more stable you are in other aspects of your life, the more powerful you are through changes and unpredictable times. And John Willis and I decided today at 3 p.m., Friday, September 10th, 3 p.m., we're going to record a live stream. So we'll do a live stream. I am going to put the links to where you can see this on my Odyssey channel. And I don't know if we're doing it on his Facebook or YouTube or both. I will put those links at livingfreeintennessee.com/live stream. Of course, we'll put it out on social. I'm going to get that sort of the initial announcement up this morning. But we're going to talk about building self-reliance, why you need to build self-reliance. I'm sure we'll talk about the jab and a lot of other things. 3 p.m. today, live. John Willis from Special Operations Equipment and I are going to talk about that. And of course, we're also going to start going through what's happening at the Self-Reliance Festival on October 23rd. That's right. We're doing a Self-Reliance Festival together. We've joined forces. And our point with this is to help people just see these skills that we all need to incorporate into our lives, or maybe we don't, right? Certain ones yes, certain ones no, but gather from our community people who can show us how to do something that other people may not know how to do. Like, I don't know, change the oil in your chainsaw. That's a good one. Or throw knives. That's another fun one. We've got somebody who's got a paramedic who applied is going to do a demo, a first aid demo that'll be really cool. I'm either going to do cheese making or canning or something like that. The reason I don't know, guys, is because if you go to livingfreeintennessee.com/self-reliance festival, you'll see that you can buy tickets, you can become a vendor and sell whatever it is you make, or you can apply to do a demo. I'm waiting to see who from the network, I have some demos locked in at this point, who from the network wants to do a demo at the Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee on October 23rd. And then I know how to do a lot of things. Like if what's left that hasn't been shown how to do is how to make mead, I will do how to make mead. But until I know what y'all want to do, I didn't want to just say, hey, I'm doing canning. And then one of you's like, wow, I could have done a really good canning demo. I'll go apply. I'm going to make my decision in about another week about what I'm doing. So get your application in now so I know what you can do. It's going to be fantastic. Tickets are only $30 in advance, $50 at the door. And, you're looking at 100 to 200 people that are like-minded from my network and from John Willis's network. And we need to start talking to each other now more than ever. It's the in-person relationships that get you through on community. You need to foster those in-person relationships. And I would say, especially after what came out of the political talking heads last night, now more than ever, make time to go to these things in person, meet people, develop those relationships, find out that there is some guy that lives only 5 miles from you who has similar thoughts and is similarly interested in building rather than tearing down, rather than mandating, that sort of thing. Anyway, today, 3 p.m. live, you can see us have a fun chat, and that'll be at livingfreeintennessee.com/live stream if you need to get the links. Also, if you're following me on MeWe and Telegram and all those other places, I will also put the links out there. Anyway, with that, it's time to jump into this week's collection of Thoughts of the Walk. Hey guys, welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk. I am coming to you because we have a refugee invasion here at the Holler Homestead. Meleagris Galapagos domesticus has arrived. About 26 to 28 of them. Tactical, can you tell us how this came to be, that we got these refugees?
Last night I got told that we had a friend that needed to have a temporary place to hold some livestock for a while. So this morning I unloaded my truck and set up the FEMA camp.
FEMA camp?
Oh, Farm Emergency Management Area.
Yeah, so the important thing of any FEMA camp is you have a couple of things. Shelter, food and water, and a way to heat and cool whoever is in the FEMA camp when the time comes. And with Ida in the works right now, we wanted to make sure that everything was set up because we're going to have some high winds and some rain coming through starting to this afternoon or tomorrow, right? So our FEMA camp also doubles as a meat chicken tractor that can be moved around. And this is it. So come meet our Meleagris Galapagos domesticus. Here they are. Cozy. In related news, I'm not sure if we're doing this class here or at our friend's house later in November, but Saturday before Thanksgiving, we're going to be doing a class on how to process turkeys, which is what has arrived here at the Holler. And they will be raised on grass in the Holler Homestead at this point. I am getting my hands on some soy-free feed for them so that we have soy-free grass pasture-raised turkeys. We'll talk to you about how to prepare them from there in the class. You come take the class, you go home with your Thanksgiving turkey. You can buy an extra turkey if you want to. We're going to have that Saturday before Thanksgiving so you can get them in the brine Sunday or Monday and have a really tasty Thanksgiving on Thursday. But now that our refugees are here, we're going to be taking care of some turkeys and pasturing them. They're starting in this spot because, as I said, we have wind and rain coming tomorrow, but they're pretty happy after their little trip across the state, and our FEMA camp really worked out really well. So if you are starting a homestead, on a homestead, consider having a FEMA location somewhere on your property in case somewhere in the community you need to help somebody out. Because what happens is we are developing community relationships is emergencies come up for people. And in this case, the emergency was the person had gotten too sick to be able to get up and go outside on the regular basis to change food and water. So we stepped up and said, you know what, we'll take care of them for you, but that's easier for us to do here than at your place. So let's get these turkeys over here and get them raised and then worry about the rest from there. Hope you enjoyed this Thought of the Walk. Make it a great week. I just like to make funny faces at the beginning of these. Welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk, episode 41. It's episode 41. I've heard that maybe I did 2 episodes 34. And if I did, that's okay. We're just going to keep numbering as I know the number. Wow, check this out. This is my pond. We've had a bunch of rain come in, and there's some flooding going on here. Just minor. It's not really flooding, but everything's a lot more full of water than usual. When we had the 2010 Nashville flood, the road in front of me had water flowing over at about 12 inches. But this is down the hill from my house, so the chance of my house actually ever flooding is fairly low. I'm also above the water line of the nearby Army Corps Lake, so if that dam goes, unless we have a really bad back wave or something, I'm good. Surge, I don't know what you call that. Well, today I was originally going to talk about timing, but then there was some talk over on the Telegram group. If you're not part of the Telegram group, just go there and look for Living Free in Tennessee and join our Telegram group. There's a lot of people talking lately. Amy Dingman was talking about getting a GSD group going because after hearing my Monday podcast, which was all about building instead of freaking out during these times of the world, quote unquote, falling apart. Anyway, Amy said, I'd love to have a GSD crew there. Talk about how you got that going. And I just thought, we haven't talked about the GSD crew or get stuff done or get shit done, depending on which word you prefer to use. And the idea started really at Jack Spirko's podcast because he went on a GSD tirade one year. And that was the same year I managed to make it to his spring workshop, when he did spring workshops, for the first time. I met a guy there named Sean Mills from Hack My Solar, who you've heard on my podcast if you listen to my podcast at livingfreeintennessee.com. And he and I, he watched me present at Jack's. He's like, wait, Living Free in Tennessee, that's you? My wife listens to that. And I got to know his wife and his kids, and one time he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to come over and visit. Came over for the weekend, and I can't remember if other Tennessee friends came that weekend or not, but we just had a great time. Hung out, had some beers by the campfire, started what has now become a tradition where we play songs on cell phones and sing to them, but now I actually have karaoke possibilities when I want to. And in general, had a great time. And guess what? That set the foundation for a trusting relationship that when I did my first LFTN workshop, which was an event at my house where I opened it up to anybody who could buy a ticket, he heard I was doing that. He was a salesman, so he was driving by my house on his way to a sales call. He goes, hey, Nicole, can I stop by in half an hour? I said, sure. It was in the morning one morning. He comes into my kitchen and says, I gave him a cup of coffee because that's what happens when you stop by. And he said, we need to make this the most badass event that people can go to, and how can I help? And I said, well, honestly, I have committed to do this thing, and I have Jack Spirko coming to speak and some other names coming to speak, because when you start an event like that, even if you are a personality, you get other personalities involved and you have a bigger reach, right? That's a smart way to do it. And I said, well, I don't even know if my place is ready. I could use help making sure this is badass, that we get the word out. And here's what happened. We had week after week after week of a core group of friends who like to hang out together. And they came over and cleaned up my property, built a composting outhouse so that I could have both composting outhouse and porta potties so people could choose. They helped build an outdoor shower. I had one, but it was kind of sketchy. We made it nicer, put in a covered area in case it rained, and in general did a bunch of projects for me. He sourced some IBC totes to put the aquaponics system in, which was one of the things we were doing at the workshop. And that's where the GSD crew became GSD-ish, because then after the workshop was over and we all had learned how to install aquaponics, another community member, Kurt, said, I want an aquaponics system. And we're like, great. What we should do is about once a month, schedule a weekend at somebody's place, doing something for them, hang out, have a good time, put it together. And so we went to Kurt's and set up the aquaponics. It was on a weekend where I couldn't go, but I did what I usually do when I can't go. I sent big old coffee urn and some coffee. And I mean, at this point, there's nobody to take care of my animals if I'm not here, or Tactical or Nighthawk or Jenny aren't here. And so usually you won't get all of us at one event because one of us will stay behind on the livestock, right? So anyway, we did that. And then we put in an aquaponics at Brian's and Brett's. And when the cycle of aquaponics were done, we started doing, I think Sean got a composting outhouse that helped him get ready for an event. And we just started doing these whenever. We originally thought it'd be once a month, and now I usually have one or two before my workshop. Brian usually has one in the fall, etc. And as we got into this, people started having different roles. But I think the key to this GSD crew turning into the powerhouse that they are is that we were friends first. And every time we do something, we make time to have good food, hang out, trade stories, sing karaoke if we want to, don't sing karaoke if we don't want to, and generally have a good time, and we stay in touch in between. And the ways we stay in touch are text message. We use an app on the phone called Zello, which is like a CB radio on your phone. That's just because we were already in contact with that thing. And then Telegram, we talk on MeWe, and we genuinely care about each other's well-being. And over time, other people see our GSD crew and say, hey, I want to go to one of those. And so we let them know when it's happening, and they show up, and the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It helps that I'm looking at the pawpaw trees to see, yep, there's still a pawpaw up there. Andy, I got your back on that, but we really need to shake that tree, and there's flooding in that creek, so we'll see. Anyway, to harvest pawpaws, I shake the tree, and the ones that fall down are ripe. It's one of my tricks. But we just attract more people, and we have even a little write-up the standards on how to do it. And now what happens when somebody has an emergency, well, we all know each other already. We know each other's skills. We have, the GSD crew core. I would say the core is the original people, but then we have a lot of people who've been coming for a long time who are probably the core now too. I don't even know. And then those people knows people, and their friends have friends. And what we found is that even if we need something, like we needed jacks capable of jacking up a double wide this weekend for somebody, even if we don't have it in the immediate group who's going to be there, we can usually ask around and find something that will work. And in the case of the jack, we found more jacks than we needed for that project, and that was great. So what has happened is when something happens, like Melissa's house got kind of blown off its foundation by flooding, she can say, you know what, I'm going to do a GSD weekend. She's been to several. We all know who she is. And people show up, and they do the work, and they have a good time, right? We had somebody drive from another state. It was a 3-hour longer drive than he probably knew it was, but from another state, brought desserts, because he always brings desserts, right? It's just everybody kind of gets these things that they always do. Electric guy is electric guy. I usually try to oversee food if it's at somebody's house, even if they're a food person. When you have a GSD, 100 people ask you 1,000 questions. So that's how the groups come to be. I think the elements in place that are important is trust and relationship development in person. I'm going to actually do it a separate thing. Number 2, in-person get-togethers, and some of them not being GSD, right? I like to joke, we were getting in together in person before this happened, and then after it happened, we just got bored, and we needed to do something, so we started GSDing. That's kind of how that went down, because a lot of us are the doers to begin with. When we have somebody who is drain on the system and negative and not willing to be part of the community in a positive way, eventually we just stop inviting them. That's what happens. They go away. I think that's an important part of any community is if you have, there's a difference between I need some help right now and constant drama or somebody who gossips about people in a negative way, all of those things. Like the gossip I get from the community is that, Fred lost his job and he's come on hard times, and I think it might be good to do a little community kickstart for him, and then we pool what we can, resources or whatever, or help, to help Fred. That's the kind of gossip I'm okay with. Hearing about Fred's alleged affair with Ginger, not interested in that. We try to keep the drama out of these things, so that's really important. And then the 4th thing is to have fun. You gotta have fun for this to work, right? Speaking of having fun, hey guys, let's go home. Let's go home. That's the command for the dogs to turn around. If we keep going down this road that I'm walking on, we end up in other dogs, and then you guys are going to hear all sorts of barking and me yelling, and I know you probably want to hear that one day, but not today. So that's really what it's taken to get the GSD crew. There has to be, I think, a core of 3 to 4 people who are willing to show up. And if they can't show up, they show up in a different way. Like I send coffee when I can't show up, right? And if you have that, the rest will follow. Make sure there's good food, make sure there's fun, and be purposeful about developing the relationships in your community. And I think that will it gets the same thing going. And you don't have to do something every month. That's the other thing. We started monthly. I think we do 4 things a year pretty much. Sometimes more. Like Melissa was going to do her GSD in October. Well, she just did it last week, but she might do another one in October. That's fine. You know, whatever works. Whatever. I mean, I think originally she wanted to build out this house rather than gut it and put it back on its foundation. But she's looking to turn that into a store to sell her spice mixes, which are fantastic. So that's the Tennessee GSD group. And there's a good one in Ohio I've heard about that had a similar thing where they started and developed the relationships and got going. If you're looking to start one in your area, find your core people, have your first meetup. Let me know you're having your meetup, and I'll talk about it on my podcast if you give me enough heads up. You know, send it an email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. I hope you enjoyed this edition of my Thought of the Walk. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that bell button to get notified when we go on again, and share it with your friends. We may, you know, you never know who you'll find when you share a good one with your friends that you think they'll relate to. Make it a great week. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk. This is episode 42 this morning, and today I want to talk about something important. Something very important. Nobody cares. Nobody cares why. I got to thinking about this when I watched a conversation go down last night online and later found out the why of the situation. And here's the deal. Nobody cares why you act how you do, except for you. You care. And, you know, a couple people close to you might care. But basically, the rest of the world doesn't care why. They care that. And it's important to keep that in mind when you're just interacting with people from day to day, because a lot of people don't care why you don't deliver on something, even if you have COVID or if you had something horrible happen in your life. They care that you did not deliver on a promise, right? A lot of people use the explanation of why as a way to communicate. And that's not, it's okay to tell people why. But at the end of the day, the why doesn't matter to them. It's an unfortunate fact in life. Most people don't know you well enough to care why. And, excuse me, got a little froggy in my throat. I wonder if there's a frog around here I could show you. Anyway, it's important to know that for a couple of reasons. One, if you always have a reason why, people care why less and less and less. The other thing is, if you're in a situation where your why is a really valid why, and it's deeply impacting how you are able to function, the unfortunate thing is they don't care why, they care that. And reaching out for help may get you moving forward, but at the end of the day, if you don't address your own why, and if you want to change, nobody can do it for you, and telling a million people why doesn't help. It doesn't change anything, the telling of it. What changes things is the processing of things and getting through them. And this kind of came to my mind because I watched a conversation yesterday, and the conversation was non-productive, and then I later found out why. Why? Somebody felt compelled to reach out to me and tell me why. And I almost answered that message, and I was like, no, it doesn't matter to me why. It matters that. And the best response I can have to anybody with a negative worldview, which was the problem, doesn't matter why they have it, it is the problem. The best I can manage on that is to show them love. Send positive thoughts their way, send prayers their way if you're a praying person, and go on and don't respond to the negative. It's what you do with a child, right? If your child is negative all the time and you only respond to their positive interactions, eventually, if they want interactions with you, they learn to be positive. But if you feed the negative, no matter why it's there, you get more of that. I'm a good proponent of nurturing the positive, and I know it's hard sometimes. You can't just always turn that frown upside down now, can you? Well, you can. Sometimes it's very insincere. But I have found that there are different perspectives on anything in life. And if you can find the good in something, or find the path forward at least, you end up in a better place in the long run if you just make that a habit rather than the exception. So next time you're tempted to fall back on your why for bad behavior, take a minute to think about that. I know I have to think about it a lot. And think about a better way. You could just say that. Sorry, I have some personal stuff going on. This didn't get done. I'm going to get done today. It's better than telling me what your personal stuff is a lot of the time. Anyway, just the thought this morning. Make it a great week. Hey guys, welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk, episode 43. Today I want to talk about something. I've been hearing a lot of language about not enough money to learn skills. And right now I think one of the most important things you can do in your life, I need to yell at my dog. Cece, come here. Ah! Come here. One of the most important things you can do is learn new skills that foster self-reliance. And when I hear people say, yeah, I'd like to learn that, but I can't, I'd like to learn the can, but I can't afford the canner. Or I would like to learn how to sharpen knives, but I can't afford the sandpaper or whatever, the whetstone. I think it's just an excuse when I hear that. And if you really want to learn something, you'll figure out how. That's how that works. But one of the things that's really easy to learn how to do is forage. It's free. It's free to learn how to forage wild food. And I was on this walk and I saw this great stand of oyster mushrooms. It's way up in that tree, so I'm not going to get it. If I was hungry, I'd get it. But I've been watching the stand for a couple of days, and that's my early indication that wild mushroom hunting season is upon me. We usually take a break in the summer to do wild mushrooms just because they end up not liking the heat. And then I looked across the road, and you probably can't see it real well in this video, but I'll walk up to it. And there's a pawpaw tree, some pawpaws hanging on it that are just about ready for me to shake that tree and get the pawpaws down. Mushrooms and pawpaw are both edible plants that grow wild where I live. And the reason I am 100% confident I can eat those mushrooms, because a lot of people are really scared of mushrooms, is I properly learned to identify them by getting to know people who knew stuff about mushrooms, and then identifying them first with those people. And then I went out and identified some of my own and then took them to those same people and said, this is it, right? I learned what other look-alike mushrooms there are out there, so I'd know if something was poisonous. And then after I did that, I'd made it a goal to add 2 to 3 new wild edible plants to my repertoire a year. And the pawpaw happened, and the persimmon happened. Hairy vetch, which is a green, happened. I learned you could eat plantain in salads pretty good in the early spring. And then I learned about wild mustard. And then I learned about some herbal things like jewelweed, which you can't see it real well. This is jewelweed right here, growing on the side of the creek. You would see this was a giant bush about 3 days ago, and then the county mower came through, so now it's a few sticks near the creek. But jewelweed, which can be used to treat a rash caused by poison ivy, and you can plant it to choke out poison ivy. Those are the 2 main reasons to do jewelweed. I learned about that. And then from there, I just kept learning more and more and more. And I can tell you this, if I had to survive in the woods, I would love to survive in these woods. We had somebody come down here and recruit from Tennessee people they were going to drop into Alaska for a survival TV show. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. I don't know anything about the wild plants in Alaska. I'm sure there's some crossover. But if you're going to drop me in the woods to survive, drop me where I know how to survive. And that's here. And the cool thing about this is, I learned watercress. We got watercress up in the creek. As a result of learning this, I can go out on a nice walk like this morning, and I can look at what state of the plants are. This is all jewelweed here, all those yellow flowers you see. Not the big sunflower looking ones, but the little yellow flowers in the bush. I can go out and I can collect tea for winter, or for now. I can collect herbal remedies like mullein for congestion, which has been really important to us the last couple of years. We've had some chest stuff in the last couple of years. And I can forage wild greens for salads, roots for something starchy. Dandelion root is pretty tasty. For example, Jerusalem artichokes grow wild here. The way I get those is I look for where they've bloomed. Some down there right now. Hello, Jerusalem artichokes. There's those yellow flowers. There's lots of yellow flowers. I don't know if you can see those yellow flowers. Let's see. They're way down there. Anyway, I'll go out and I'll mark them where I see them growing. And then in the fall, I'll dig down after they've died back. And there's a root vegetable called a Jerusalem artichoke or a fartichoke that if you boil it and rinse it, you don't get farty, but if you eat it raw, apparently it makes people toot. Grated raw in a salad, by the way, is really good, but it may give you that gift that I just talked about. But I can get all of those things and augment my food now, which is pretty darn cool. It's pretty darn cool, and it's something I could learn for free. And in learning that skill, I've learned to observe how and where plants grow. And that's crossed over and increased my ability to not wild plants, plant and grow things that are just part of our day-to-day life, because I've learned to observe in my own garden the same thing. So it's a skill you can learn for free. Next time you're telling me that you can't learn how to can because you can't afford the canner and apparently don't know anybody you can borrow one from, go learn some wild plants in your area. Definitely worth it. Make a great week. Hey guys, and welcome to Nicole Sauce's Follow the Walk today. It's episode 43, and I was kind of thinking about taking the long-term view. Sometimes it's a good idea to take the long-term view, because when you take the short-term view, you make a decision one way that may not be in the best interest of your long-term success, and it can be really hard to do that, especially in, painful situations that you may be in the middle of, that sort of thing. But if you don't take the long-term view in a decision, stuff doesn't always work out the way you thought. Actually, stuff usually doesn't turn out the way you thought anyway, right? But I got to thinking about this because I heard somebody tell a number of people that their marriage is breaking up because they wouldn't get the stick. And I was like, who does that? I can understand not agreeing with your spouse about a personal decision, but it's a personal decision. And this too will pass, right? The equivalent is you've just ended your marriage because your spouse won't get the flu shot. That's basically what you just did. Right now, it might feel really, really, really important. 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, well, shit. What did I do? I guess 10 years from now, it doesn't matter as much. And after building a life with somebody, I would think that you would want to take the long-term view on this. Now, I don't know the details of this particular person's relationship, and maybe other things are going on, but to have that as the reason, that's a very short-term view of the situation, especially for something that is not preventing spread or infection. And if your fear is that you'll get the illness and end up in the hospital and die, and that sounds very painful to you, so you need to end the marriage, weren't you there for sickness and health? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a sad thing, and definitely not a long view. And that applies to a lot of other things in life too. Like yesterday was Labor Day, and if you missed the live stream, we were just talking about Labor Day. Labor Day is a day where a lot of us hang out and have a good time and barbecue with some friends and that sort of thing. That's okay. But it's also a day where if you have a job and the kind of job that you're not working on Labor Day, you were just given a gift of a day. A day you can focus 100% on making your life better. And by doing so, you can make the whole 1% better. if you take a long view about where you put your time on Labor Day, you may end up 1% better this year, and then 1% better over Thanksgiving, same way, who knows? You may end up 10% better and further along to where you want to go. So I just think taking the long view is a good way to make decisions. And sometimes the long view, guys, is I'm taking a selfish Sunday. That's what I did this weekend. Took a selfish Sunday, wrote the things I wanted to do with that. One was a production outcome. Didn't do that one. You know what I did? I read a fiction novel. I did some organizing around the house, and I went swimming. And I swam about, I don't know, 2,100 meters or so. And I haven't been swimming for 3 months, I think. Chestnut! My dogs. Hey, Chestnut, come here. Chestnut, Sissy! There they go. Supposed to be on a walk with my dogs, and they just got really interested in a rabbit. So, is what it is, right? Is what it is. Anyway, I hit that pool, and I could have gone probably 2,500 if I wanted to, but I got to go swimming, and that investment is a 3-hour investment, 3 to 3.5 hours by the time I'm done with it, and I just feel so good after I do it. I have this thing where the right side of my body is a little bit weaker suddenly in the last 6 months or so, and hurts, and when I go swimming, that goes away. The other thing that was interesting about the outcome, I didn't lose any weight. So, because I weigh myself every day, because I'm on that whole thing. And, but my belt was an inch smaller from Sunday to Monday. Didn't lose any weight, but something moved around while I was in the pool, which was kind of nice. I think I just like stretched and popped, and that was great. The long view of that is if I make time to relax, I'm better and more prepared to work through the week. Like today, I'm teaching somebody how to roast coffee. I'm getting out a lot of coffee orders and setting the stage for the podcast tomorrow. We didn't do a Monday podcast because of Labor Day, so it's sort of a hybrid podcast tomorrow. And then also launching a bunch of fall events that are happening. We've got Self-Reliance Day at Special Operations Equipment on October 23rd. We've got Turkey Processing Day before Thanksgiving, Saturday before Thanksgiving. We've got the Christmas reception in December. And I'm speaking at a Back to the Land Expo the weekend before the event in Camden. So there's a whole lot to do. Plus Jack Spirko's spring workshop is in November. Fall workshop is in November. And those all line up right around Christmas time. So as you can imagine, there's a lot going on. But I just take the long view every day as I look at what I'm going to do and decide, where's the priority today? Yesterday was kind of a gift for me because I was quiet, no interruptions. I could really focus on some stuff. So I did. And I got a lot done. Anyway, think about that. Think about that in your relationships too, because sometimes we make short-term decisions based on pain before addressing the underlying long-term-ish perspective or integrating that. Sometimes, yeah, it means things come apart, but sometimes it might be worth that extra effort to take the long view. Anyway, make it a great week. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk. This is episode 45. I've had a couple of weeks of proving that Nicole can't count, apparently, so I keep saying the wrong episode number. A problem I could solve very easily by doing what? Actually looking at my channel and saying, hey, which one's published most recently? Yeah, sometimes that happens because I'll record a couple in advance so that I don't need to do these on Sunday. Hey, dogs, come back here. Chestnut, Cece. The dogs are running off because Sonny's with us today. And that just means I look at the channel and then I'm a number off and then I realize, oh, episode 43 was really episode 44. Today I want to just give you a quick view into homesteading and some things I've learned from homesteading that can be kind of applied anywhere. But I realized when I was on Unloose the Goose last night, episode 53 about self-reliance, that, well, I live a different life and style than a lot of people, right? But also, some of the things we do are things anybody can do to reduce their reliance on the power grid and a lot of other things. And it can make your life a lot better. And I was kind of laughing this morning as I looked at stuff. The first thing is specific to a homestead or anybody who heats with wood. If you heat with wood, you have a heat source. Well, if you have a wood stove. I mean, if you have a wood burning furnace, this is different. If you heat with wood though, usually the top of your wood stove is hot. And what you can do when the top of your wood stove is hot is put something on it and make it hot. And when we had the ice storm last year, people were calling me all worried because power had been out for days. They're like, "Are you okay? How are you staying warm?" And I heat with wood, have a wood stove. And that means that my heating side of my life changed 0%. It was just darker in my house, and water doesn't run without power if you're, using power to get your water from a spring to your house. So what I did, because power went out, I had something in the crock pot. I borrowed my next door neighbor's enameled Lodge 6-quart Dutch oven, and he brought it up, and I put it on top of my wood stove, and I took the contents of the crock pot and I went bloop, and I dumped it in there, and I cooked a beef stew that was already in process on top of my wood stove. And when I did that, I was like, why don't I just do this all the time? This is stupid. Why am I even using power on the crock pot? I mean, it doesn't use that much power in the grander scheme of my life, but there's no reason all winter long, if I'm crock potting, that I can't just put an enameled Dutch oven on my wood stove and it heats it. And then the other thing that changed is that I do on-demand coffee, right? I have an awesome espresso maker. I make 1 cup at a time. You can tell I've had one this morning already, right? And it grinds it, and I make fresh, awesome coffee. Well, when the power goes out, I use a French press or a pour-over cone. And to do that, I boil the water on my gas stove and, pour it into the thing, and it makes coffee. Well, I end up with coffee I want to keep hot, right? A really great way to keep coffee hot when you don't have power is a thermos. Well, I like really fresh, by the cup coffee. I really do. And the pour over cone does 1 cup at a time. So what I figured out during the power outage was, hey, rather than use the French press and make a bunch of coffee, what I can do is make hot water, pour that in the thermos, and then every time I want a cup of coffee, get my cone, put the coffee grounds in it, pour over, and I have a cup of coffee. And then just because I'm a coffee nerd, I happen to have a hand-cranked coffee grinder, so I don't even have to have pre-ground green beans for this to happen, right? Literally changed my world. Again, this is something you can do at your house. If you're a coffee or tea drinker and you make it manually like that, a lot of people use those electric kettles. You turn the electric kettle on and it heats the water, you make your tea, and then later that afternoon you go back to that same kettle that usually has the same water in it, right? And you turn it back on and you boil that water and you make your tea or you make your coffee. Okay, well, here's a crazy thought. You could boil it once in the morning, pour it in a nice Stanley, nice thermos that keeps things hot for a long time. And then you just have a thermos of hot water to work with for the rest of the day. And that's what I started doing when I knew I was going to be doing a lot of hot water days. There are days when I'm more likely to drink more tea than other days. I started saying, if I'm just going to boil it once, I'll throw it in my thermos, and then I don't use that power the second, third, or fourth time that I want a cup of something. And I know that seems like tiny little steps, but it's one step more self-reliant. And when you get those little habits in your life, you can end up making big changes. And the other thing is when stuff happens, you're like, oh, I don't have to change that much because I already do this thing with the thermos. So those are just kind of 2 things I was thinking about that happened. The other thing I realized during that time is I have a big 3-gallon pot that I make cheese in. I can fill that with water and put it on my wood stove, and I have on-demand hot water all the time. And it also disperses humidity into the air, which when you heat with wood, you kind of want to do that anyway. And so that's just another little homestead hack. These are all steps, though. And that's, I think, the thing people forget about when we talk about self-reliance. We're like, okay, I need to cover my food, my water, my housing, my energy needs, my first aid, my health, all of those things, my animals. Those things all need to be covered, and I got to get it all done. Okay, well, no, you don't. You need to choose the one thing you can do. Just choose the one thing you can do. And there are a lot of little habits that take no time. I mean, storing hot water in a thermos takes no time, and it's also 0 time dishes because water doesn't make your thermos dirty. Those little things that pull you back off the over-reliance on the constant appliance really do make a difference. And that doesn't mean don't use appliances if you want to. I mean, heck, I got a freeze dryer going right now. I did 2 kinds of soup and a salsa-like thing, and they were just about dry just about when I went to bed. So I added 12 hours of drying. That's more power I'm using right now, but I was pretty sure I was not going to make a good judgment call on that last night. Is what it is. I use that appliance. I love freeze drying stuff. That makes my life a lot easier. When I run out of milk this winter, I'm going to have freeze-dried milk, and I like milk in my coffee, so I can use that then, and I won't have to buy commercially produced milk, which means I'm reducing my exposure to the things they put in commercially produced milk, like thickeners and sweeteners. They're not even required to say they put that stuff in there anymore. Thank you, FDA. I know you got our backs, man. Thank you for that. Anyway, I hope this gets you thinking about different ways you can simplify and double up on purposes in your life as you look at developing self-reliance. Sometimes self-reliance is changing how you live and how you do stuff. And the more you do that, the easier it is to say, you know what? If this all goes away, all the convenience, I've got it. Totally got it. And you'll have it in a way that doesn't mean you're also living out of a backpack in a tent, which while it might not be something that's horribly horrible, certainly a lot less comfortable than sitting in the living room with a wood stove and pot of water, keeping everything hot. Anyway, food for thought as we go into the weekend. I'll be back Sunday with another one. Make it a great week. I hope you enjoyed this week's collection of Thought of the Walk episodes, a collection of short thoughts shared on a variety of topics and also distributed via video on Odyssey and YouTube. If you want to support the show and the work I do, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee over at hollowroast.com. 2, become a member at livingfreeintennessee.com. And remember, if you're interested in asking a question or suggesting a topic for Thought of the Walk episodes, you can do that. Just go over to MeWe.com and join the Living Free in Tennessee group and put your comments in the pinned post there. Make it a great week.